Ever feel like you're stuck?
Yeah.
Like you try to make a change, but always end up back at square one. We're diving into that today, into the world of the subconscious and how we can actually reprogram it.
Reprogramming, that's a good way to put it. Most people don't realize how much is running in the background, influencing everything.
Right, and that's what we're tackling thanks to this source Eingefigter text you sent over. It's got some seriously practical advice in it.
It really gets into the nitty-gritty, which is great. We're talking actionable steps, not just, oh, think positive.
Exactly, because we've all heard that before, right? But this source is like a roadmap. So to get started, it keeps emphasizing this idea of the subconscious as like an operating system.
Yeah. I like that analogy. Very relatable. Like, think about your phone. It's got all this code running that you don't see, but it determines what your phone can do. Our minds are kind of the same.
It makes sense, right? Like, why do we reach for our phones first thing in the morning? It's not always a conscious choice. It's a habit, a program.
Exactly. And this source really hammers home that point. So many of our thoughts, feelings, actions, they're driven by this hidden programming.
Which is why I think it stresses self-awareness as like
Mm-hmm.
step one. Got to
No.
debug the code before you can rewrite it, yeah.
Spot on. The source talks a lot about journaling for this, and not just Dear Diary stuff, but really looking for patterns in your thoughts.
Oh, that's interesting. So it's not just writing down what happened. It's more like analyzing why you're reacting a certain way to things.
Precisely. Let's say you keep self-sabotaging at work, right? Journaling might reveal a fear of success, even if you never consciously thought that before.
Whoa, so it's like uncovering those hidden beliefs that are holding us back.
Exactly. And once you see them, you can start to change them. That's
Yeah.
where the source gets into affirmations, which I know can sound a little out there.
A little woo-woo, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll admit I was skeptical too. Like saying nice things to myself is going to magically fix everything.
Right. But it's not magic. It's about neuroplasticity, the brain actually rewiring itself based on the input it gets.
So if you're constantly thinking negative thoughts, your brain's like, okay, this is the norm. But if you feed it positive affirmations,
It starts to create new pathways, new ways of thinking and being. It's like updating your phone's software. You get rid of the old glitches.
I like that. So instead of I'm not good enough, it's I am capable. And the source actually gives some really specific affirmations to use too.
It does. And it points out that timing matters. Mornings and evenings, when your mind is more relaxed, that's prime time for this stuff.
Oh, interesting. Because you're more open to suggestion at those times, right?
Yeah.
Like before bed,
Yeah.
instead of stressing about tomorrow.
You're planting these positive seeds in your subconscious as you drift off.
Okay, so less to-do lists, more like I am worthy as you're falling asleep.
Yeah.
I can see how that would make a difference.
It's about setting the tone. And then the source connects this to visualization, which takes things to a whole other level.
Visualization, yeah, we've all heard about that. But this source, it doesn't just scratch the surface, it goes deep.
Right, and that's what's so powerful about it. It's not just picturing what you want, but really feeling it, experiencing it in your mind.
So it's not just, I want that promotion. It's picturing yourself acing the presentation, shaking your boss's hand, feeling that sense of accomplishment.
You got it. And the source points out that this works because of how our brains are wired, these things called mirror neurons.
Mirror neurons. Okay, now you're getting into some serious brain science on me. Tell me more.
Well, basically, they fire up whether we actually do something or just vividly imagine doing it. So to your brain, that visualization.
That's almost like it really happened. That's wild. So the more detailed and real you make that visualization.
The stronger the impact on your subconscious mind. You're essentially proving to your brain that it's possible.
Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting. So we're not just passively daydreaming here. We're actively shaping our reality.
Exactly. And the source gives some really cool examples of how to make those visualizations even more powerful. Like, don't just visualize the end goal.
Visualize the process, the steps to get there. That makes so much sense.
Right. It's like telling your subconscious, hey, this is how we're going to achieve this, instead of just focusing on the what and ignoring the how.
Okay, this is blowing my mind. So instead of just wishing for something, we're actually creating a mental blueprint for how to make it happen.
Yeah.
And by vividly experiencing it in our minds.
We're laying the groundwork for it to manifest in our reality. It's really fascinating stuff, and the source goes into even more depth about the specific techniques you can use.
All right, I am hooked. We're going to dive into those specific techniques in just a bit, but first, a quick break. All right, so we've talked about affirmations, visualization, really getting our minds on board with this whole reprogramming thing.
But it's not all in your head, right?
Yeah.
This source doesn't let us off the hook with just thinking positive. It gets into action, too.
Yeah, and this is where some people might hit a roadblock. Like, I'm affirming, I'm visualizing, why isn't my life perfect yet?
Exactly. It's about aligning your actions with those new beliefs you're cultivating. The source calls this out specifically mastering emotions, habits, and even meditation.
Okay, mastering emotions. That sounds intense. Like, are we supposed to be happy all the time now?
No, it's not about denying or suppressing emotions. It's more about awareness, right? Recognizing when those negative emotions pop up.
So instead of letting them control you, like, ugh, I'm so stressed, I'm just going to order takeout and binge watch TV.
Exactly. It's about noticing that stress, that urge to escape, but choosing a different response. The source really emphasizes that we have more control than we think.
I like that. So it's not about being happy all the time. It's about choosing how you react to those negative emotions when they inevitably come up.
Right. And then, alongside emotions, the source talks about habits. This is where those small, consistent changes come in.
This reminds me of that saying, Rome wasn't built in a day, right? Like, you're not going to overhaul your entire life overnight.
Exactly. The subconscious loves routine, so even tiny changes to your daily habits can have a big impact over time.
The source gave a really interesting example about this, about money. It said, even if you're struggling financially, start saving just a few dollars a day.
It's about shifting your mindset from scarcity to abundance, even if those initial actions seem small. It's about proving to your subconscious that things can be different.
That's a really powerful way to look at it.
Yeah.
And then, this is where I got a little thrown, the source talks about meditation. I always thought meditation was about clearing your mind, not necessarily changing it.
Right. You'd think it'd be the opposite of all this active reprogramming.
Yeah.
But the source explains it beautifully. It's about creating that space, that stillness, for your subconscious to really absorb those new beliefs.
So that makes sense. So you're not just bombarding your mind with affirmations 24/7, you're giving it time to actually integrate them.
Precisely. Think of it like this. You're planting the seeds with affirmations and visualization, and meditation is like watering them, giving them the space to grow.
Okay, now, that is a game changer. So it's not just about filling our minds with positivity, it's about creating the right conditions for those positive changes to take root.
Exactly. And then the source dives into something that totally surprised me, the connection between sleep and our subconscious.
Sleep. Really, I thought that was just when our brains shut off and recharge.
Right, but according to the source, our subconscious minds are actually really active while we sleep, which makes it prime time for reprogramming.
Whoa. So all those limiting beliefs we're trying to get rid of, they're not as active when we're sleeping.
Well, not necessarily, but our conscious mind, that critical voice, it's less active, so our subconscious is more open to suggestion.
Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting. The source calls this autosuggestion, right?
Yeah.
Listening to affirmations or guided meditations as you fall asleep.
Exactly. It's like giving your subconscious mind a pep talk while you sleep. And because your conscious mind is less likely to interfere, those positive messages can really sink in.
So imagine this. You drift off to sleep, listening to, I am worthy of abundance, and your subconscious is like, okay, I got this.
I love it. And the source even suggests recording yourself reading affirmations. Something about hearing your own voice makes it even more powerful.
It's like giving yourself subliminal messages while you sleep. Okay, now this is starting to sound like some next level stuff, but in a good way. I'm really starting to see how all these pieces fit together.
Me too. It's like we're building this toolkit for change, right? We've got our affirmations, our visualizations, our habits. Even our sleep is working for us now.
And through it all, this source keeps emphasizing one crucial thing. Belief.
Yes. This is huge. You can have all the techniques in the world, but if
Yeah.
you don't actually believe in your ability to
Your
change.
subconscious is going to be like, yeah, right. I've heard that one before.
Exactly. So it's about cultivating that trust, that faith in yourself and the process, even when you don't see immediate results.
It's about trusting that those small, consistent actions, those shifts in your thoughts and feelings, they are creating lasting change. You know, it's funny how we can hear something and it sounds almost too good to be true. Like if I just picture myself getting that promotion, it'll happen.
I know, right? But that's what's so cool about this whole visualization thing, this source. It doesn't just say, oh yeah, imagine it and it'll happen. It explains the why, the actual science behind it.
So like our brains, they're powerful, but they're also kind of easy to trick in a way.
Exactly. The subconscious, it doesn't always know the difference between something you've vividly imagined and something you've actually experienced.
So when we visualize, we're basically planting these seeds, these
Hmm.
possibilities, and our subconscious is like, okay, I can work with this.
That's a great way to put it. And the more real you make that visualization, the more your brain's like, wait, this is happening. It's
Oh.
firing up those neurons, strengthening those pathways.
The source had this example, and it really stuck with me. It said, don't just visualize getting the promotion. Visualize everything. Walking into your boss's office, that feeling of confidence as you're giving the presentation.
Yes. Even the feeling of like shaking hands, get congratulated, all those
Because
details.
those details, they make it real for our brains,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yeah.
not just this vague idea anymore.
Exactly. Our brains, they love sensory input. So when we visualize, we want to bring in all the senses. What are you seeing, hearing, feeling?
Oh, I like that. So it's not just what it looks like to achieve your goal, it's what it feels like, even what it smells like, if you can.
Exactly. The more immersive, the more powerful. And the source, it takes it even a step further, talking about visualizing the process, not
Mhm.
just the end result.
The process, right. Because it's easy to get caught up in that, I'll be happy when. But this source is saying, visualize the steps to get there.
Exactly. Because those steps, they build momentum. Each small win, it reinforces that belief that this is possible.
And those small wins, they add up, right?
Yeah.
Like you visualize yourself nailing that presentation, and then you actually feel more confident going into meetings.
Precisely. It's like you're giving yourself a mental rehearsal, so when the real thing happens, you're not starting from scratch.
It's like training your brain for success.
Exactly. And through it all, remember what we talked about? The power of belief. This source, it can't stress that enough.
Because you can visualize all day long, but if deep down, you don't think it's possible.
Your subconscious is going to pick up on that, and it's going to be harder to make those changes stick.
So it's about cultivating that trust, that faith in yourself and the process. It's about knowing that even if you don't see results immediately,
Those consistent efforts, those small shifts you're making, they are creating lasting change.
this whole deep dive, it's really been eye-opening. I feel like we've taken this thing, the subconscious, that can seem so mysterious, and we've broken it down.
We have. We've given people the tools to actually understand it, work with it, not against it.
Exactly. And to our listeners, we want to hear from you. What resonated? What are you going to try? Because this is about more than just listening, right? It's about taking action.
It is. So as you go about your day, think about this. Every experience, every thought you have, it's shaping your subconscious.
What choices will you make today to create that positive, empowering environment within yourself?
Keep exploring, keep experimenting.
And most importantly, keep believing in your own incredible potential. We'll see you next time, ready to dive into a whole new topic.